Hello, everybody. Again, for the first time, this is Darren Redmond, and I hope everyone had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. We're into June, and we're into summer. And with the summer comes a lot of things that should concern a lot of people without being too fearful. And that is kids are out of school and they'll have time on their hands. And there is nobody that I'm aware of who could speak to that and the uniqueness of that situation than Kym Kurey, the founder of New Life. That's one word, people. New Life International. Anew is one word, Life International.
Yes.
And you do a lot of work helping those who have been sex trafficked. But before we get into that very important issue, and anybody who's been following me for last 4 or 5 years knows how important that is, stopping child brides and all that other stuff that goes with that. But we are going to talk about first, first of all, even before we do that, we're going to introduce you, of course, but we're going to talk about some important bills that are facing legislator within the next 2, 3 days. I think
Mhm.
Saturday, one of them being Senate Bill 1586, the App Store Accountability Act, and so much others. But Kym Kurey, how are you?
How am I? I'm doing great. Thank you, Darren. And thank you for having me on your show. It's amazing. I love chatting with you and just appreciate the opportunity to talk to your folks and just urge them that they can be a part of making a difference for the kids. And thank
So,
you. Yes, go ahead.
So
Sorry.
tell us a little bit about A New Life International first,
Okay.
and how did you start with it and your original intentions, and then kind of segue into what's going on with Washington, D.C., the legislature, Florida, and then we can unpack everything else.
Okay, awesome. Well, I started anew in 2019. So I had for the 5 years prior to that, I was involved with task forces at the Super Bowl. So I had listened to a woman who founded an organization um, in California, and I had no idea about human trafficking. I worked with domestic violence. I worked with homeless. I worked with youth. And I just always thought that human trafficking was over there, was just, it
Mm.
wasn't here. It was just something I really didn't have to concern myself with because I was doing stuff here locally in the United States. And then I listened to this woman present and realized very quickly how wrong I was, and that I didn't realize that United States is actually the number one consumer for human trafficking. It's horrific. And Florida is actually the number three in the nation for reports to the human trafficking hotline, which they're all super underreported because there's so
Well,
many,
I was
even
going to say
victims. Yeah,
that is a nebulous number because
it
we both
is.
know that there are states where nothing's reported and goes
Right.
on and
Or
on. And
counties. Like I was
yes.
just, there's, in our county, there's a city that just told me that there have been no reports whatsoever this entire year. And I know from working with families and victims myself that that's absolutely not true. So you've got, folks that don't even identify as victims, et cetera. And a lot of familial trafficking, that's a huge one, and online trafficking when they're selling these videos and pictures and CSAM, as we'll discuss later. Um, but yeah, it's ridiculous and it's right here. And so much is going on right in our own backyard. So I love football and I'm a researcher
As we
by
know.
trade. So they were asking for volunteers to be researchers during Super Bowl or the 10 days prior to Super Bowl. And I was like, game on. I want to be a part of the solution. So for the next 5 years, I took my vacations and during that period of time and just kind of jumped in and did that. That was the extent of my involvement in the beginning. And then in 2019, I saw how my career as a background screener and a researcher coincided with my passion to fight human trafficking. And I believe that I got this huge download of a vision for ANEW, got the name, everything. And you asked what the initial intent was. So my original intent was to clear criminal records for survivors coming out.
And you know that's my sweet spot. I love everything about that.
Yeah. So that's and it's so needed. There are
Yep.
so many victims and survivors that come out of the life, and their perpetrators had caused them to perform these crimes, whether from prostitution to theft, robbery, all kinds of things that they've got on their record. So Florida is one of the states that will grant expungement to any survivor of human trafficking if their crime was related to their trafficking. So that is phenomenal. We're trying to actually get that
I
passed
love
at the
that.
federal level as well. So the TSRA is another, that's one of the bills that we're trying to get through.
Who, and I don't get involved in the politics because it's nonsensical and it's just people yelling at clouds, but who would be against that? I just don't know. And we both know there are,
Well,
but
it's so what's interesting is that so it's like a $250 billion this business, it's organized crime
yep,
is so huge, and it's all the way up to every single level. There are people involved in this crime. So if you're messing with their wallets, they're
yep.
going to be against it. Just like with protecting children online, you would think who would be against that? Well, big tech. Big
Hmm.
tech is against that. They're fighting it hard because the children of today are their purchasers of tomorrow, and the CSAM is bringing in all kinds of money. It's ridiculous.
Explain to people what CSAM is. Might as well right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So CSAM is child sexual abuse material, and it's it's gotten through gaming. Their
Hmm.
perpetrators are pretending to be 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds, and they're playing games with these kids, and they're developing quote unquote relationships with our kids. And some of it is even coming over through text messages. Um, so social media, however they can get to these kids that when they're online, and they're getting them to upload pictures, videos, etc. So that of sexual acts, inappropriate
Hmm.
pictures, and then they're selling them, and just it's all over, and it's not even just the dark web anymore. It's right there. Folks are scrolling, and there's pornographic material that's available for anybody to see. It's horrific. So
I say this in all sincerity.
yeah,
You know, my dad was a U.S. Marshal, a deputy U.S. Marshal, and the hiding in plain sight is a very real thing.
it
They used
is.
to hide people who would testify in plain sight. And I
Hmm.
won't say where, but you'd be amazed.
Yeah.
And you know what? These criminals do the same thing. It's right out there. It's not like you said, it's not in the deep dark web. It's not in a basement somewhere 4,000 feet under the ground in a silo. It's happening in your neighbor's house right next door. I shared with you a story about a child boy, 13 years old,
Hmm.
living in California in a upper middle class neighborhood. Nobody saw anything. Nobody noticed that it was a 13-year-old girl with a 35-year-old man who happened to work for Disney, by the way. Um, not no negative against Disney, but that just was where the person worked. Nobody said a darn thing, hiding in
Yeah.
plain sight.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so there are still some that are in the underground. There are still some in the basements. There are still
Mhm.
some that are abducted and taken, like Hollywood has presented, but it's really a very small percentage. Like you said, most of it is hidden right in plain sight. You've got your school, your children are going to school with kids that are being trafficked right now.
Yep.
Some of your kids are on their phones in the next room over uploading digital images that are going to be used for the perpetrators to make money.
And
Parents
especially
need
now with
to be
AI,
aware.
which is
Yeah, it's horrible. So there's, speaking of that, so do you know about AI Companion? Have
sure.
you heard? Okay, so AI Companion, I didn't know about that. I'm still learning about a lot of these too, especially the AI stuff. But AI Companion is absolutely utilized by perpetrators, where the companion, the AI bot, is developing relationships with these kids and grooming them. It's a
Mhm.
bot that's grooming them and turning them to against their parents, against their siblings, and even against themselves, and putting thoughts into them for suicide, for bullying, for inappropriate things with their siblings, for why don't you just kill your parents? Just kind it's ridiculous. The AI companion is horrible. It's a bot groomer. So they don't even need humans to groom the kids anymore and to develop those relationships, because a bot is is learning about that person, and then knows exactly what to say to befriend that kid, gain the trust, and then start mind control and start manipulating them in the direction that they're wanting them to go. And there's a lot of teen suicide right now from that, and from sexploitation on cell phones. It's just, I could talk to you probably for 10 hours of all this stuff that is going on right now. But with at least with your listeners, not everybody's going to be on boots on the ground working directly with survivors and directly with families looking for their missing kids and clearing records and going into strip clubs and just doing all the stuff that we do. But you can be a part of legislation. You can be a part of making a difference and being a voice, uh, to get some of this legislation passed so that it's safer for our children online. It's ridiculous how unsafe it is right now online, and our kids, they run circles around us with access, right?
Oh,
So
no, absolutely. And, I don't want to go on a tangent. When it comes to sex trafficking, there are so many different levels. And it's
yes,
not that, and I shouldn't even go like this because it's not like one's more important or harder than the other. It's just so many levels.
there
You
are.
mentioned, for example, and I love that you do this, going into the strip clubs.
Hmm.
Now you can say to that person, hey, why are you still doing this? Or why are you doing this? And well, because they are now addicted to whatever they're addicted to. And they're addicted to it because the person who is trafficking them got them addicted to it. They're afraid now that their kids are going to be taken away from them. There is fear, there's PTSD. There's so much involved in that,
Hmm.
which is also going on at the same time that these bots are developed and these people are going after your children, and trust me, they are. If you don't think that they are, and I don't want you going to bed saying or whatever, saying, fear, the sky's falling. This has been going on forever, and now it's just ramping up. And it is our responsibility as the adults, literally the adults in the room, to not fear, for example, this is me talking to my little soapbox, not to fear AI, get to know it.
Hmm.
Know what it's doing. Know
Hmm.
about the poison pill they put in there, and know what's going on with this. I told people during COVID, when everything shut down, hey, here's a wonderful time for you to learn how to use Zoom, to learn these other things that your kids are using. And so many people, for whatever reason, had nothing to do. They couldn't leave the house, but they never found time to learn these things. That's for the kids or this or that. They got to jump on you. You need to catch up. A lot of this stuff is free. These wonderful organizations, much like the one that Kym runs, they will give you the guidance. All you have to do is go to the website and you will see classes that you can take to make yourself more informed in things that are available to you to help fight and protect. You lock that door at night, but you let them in through phones. And just taking the phone away, you can't have this until you're 25, is not the answer. Know what's going on there. I'm sorry, Kym, take up so much time.
No, I love it. I love it. Yeah, and that it's I think that we do have a tendency to think, oh, I know in my life, oh, this is just your passion, you're just oversensitive. It's like, okay, well, if I'm oversensitive and that protects somebody, then okay, so be it.
Yeah,
I don't think I am, but that's
right.
of course me. But I'm seeing the statistics. I work with victims. I work with families. I have a family that I'm working with right now that and even law enforcement are great partners, and they're even asking for more training. Looking beyond the surface. It's not just a drug addict on the corner.
Nope.
What's going on? It's not just a runaway. And a lot of kids, when they run away, parents and others don't realize how vulnerable they are immediately to any perpetrators that are out there and getting mixed up with the wrong crowd, especially if they're overnight a couple of nights and they're hungry, they need a place to
That's
sleep.
right.
They're relegated to, doing things they wouldn't normally do, and they find themselves in situations that they definitely don't want to be in. I have one mom that her son was missing for 8 years, and they pretty much had, they didn't want to give up hope, but they would get phone calls, oh, we've seen him, and they were they were just frustrated and disillusioned after a long time. When PIs couldn't find him, law enforcement couldn't find him. And they just, 8 years had gone by, and she gets a message through Facebook that somebody claiming to be her son. And of course, she didn't recognize the voice. He's a man now, because as soon as these kids turn 18, I mean, the perpetrators are after them as young as 8 and
Hmm.
younger, but 8 to 12, 13 is kind of the normal range for these guys to go after the kids. But once they turn 18, they're actually saying, we'll come and pick you up and you can come live with us, or, and then the girlfriend goes with the boyfriend, or the guy goes with the friend, or whatever. So as soon as this young man turned 18, he got taken or left with this friend that he had developed for 5 years online. And from Florida, he was in Washington State. So um, turns out it was her son, and they cashed in their 401k. Dad went out, got him, brought him home, and he's now receiving help. But that's a perfect example of someone he was recruited and groomed through Facebook
Hmm.
and disappeared for 8 years. And thank God, it's the statistic I heard is only 3 to 5% of anyone that's in this life actually makes it out, because they either die by suicide, they're murdered through either one of the buyers or their pimp, or they overdose. It's a horrific life that these guys are in, and the strip clubs aren't necessarily all trafficking, but definitely some are very involved with trafficking, and it's kind of the training ground
Yep.
for a lot of these folks, that they normalize the lifestyle, they normalize the behavior. Like you said, they get addicted to any number of substances, whether they're being forced to take it or they're taking it on their own just to get through the night. And some of these moms have kids and they need to pay the bills, and that's kind of how it starts.
And then they become desensitized to
They
the
do, yeah.
situation. And once they become desensitized,
Mhm.
Jamie barred the door.
Yeah,
And oh, you're nervous here. And look, they're not shoving the pills down your throat. You're nervous about this? You got to do it. Hey, listen, like, take your kids, meaning, you can be thrown out. You need money. You're a very pretty person, boy or girl, it doesn't matter. Here, take
right.
this pill. And then you take this pill, and it happens that way.
Yeah. Hmm.
And explain to the audience, the term sex trafficking is nebulous because people think it's just some person in a white van who kidnaps you. I mean, and unfortunately that does happen,
It does.
but
Hmm.
it's very subtle. It's It's
Yeah.
playing on fears over the internet. It is playing on fears about being evicted. It's playing on fears of not being worthy, of feeling left alone. We'll talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Yeah, definitely the vulnerable folks. One of the courses I teach is on value, knowing your value. Because when you know your value, you're less vulnerable to all the sweet talk and the grooming that is out there, and that these guys watch your social media feeds. They watch your LinkedIn. They're watching all the time, looking for keywords to look for those vulnerabilities. And then that's online. But then you have family members that are trafficking their family members and to
Yep.
pay the bills, to buy drugs, to whatever. And trafficking, so it's any sexual act for as an adult that you are forced to do, and it's any commercial sex act by force, fraud, or coercion.
Yep.
That's how it's defined federally. So if you're in a position where you're being forced, your documents were taken, and doesn't necessarily always have to be sex trafficking, it's labor trafficking.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's both. There's even organ trafficking, which you can just use your imagination on that. But and if it's under 18, it's automatically any sexual commercial sex act with a minor is automatically sex trafficked, and there's no such thing as a child prostitute. It's sex trafficking.
Nope.
So it's any and it's for it doesn't always need to be money either, but some kind of so if you are being sold in order to stay at the house that you're living in or to be able to eat or in the
Well,
same.
I'm going to stop you there for half a second, and then just to kind of bring home that point. We talked last time,
Mhm.
and that one of the guests I had on my podcast, she was the rent.
Yes.
She was a 13, 14-year-old girl. She was the rent.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm sorry, continue. Just
No,
to,
no, no, you're absolutely right, and it's heartbreaking because some of these parents are using their children
Mhm.
to pay rent and to support their drug habit. They're selling their kids. And foster kids are super vulnerable. They run away, they get mixed up with the wrong folks. There's just, like I said, it's at every level. There's, teachers, bus drivers. I remember when
Yep.
I was a kid, there's inappropriate junk that's going on. There was just a teacher locally that was arrested. There was a sheriff that was just arrested here in Florida. So you've got all kinds. It's in sports. It's in
Oh yeah.
Hollywood. It's in politics. So back to one of your questions earlier, who would resist some of these things? And it infuriates me when we've got these bills that seem like they're no brainers, and you've got an almost unanimous vote. It passes, but say it's 192 to 2. It's like,
Mhm.
who the flip are the two that didn't want our children protected? I mean, that's pretty
Yeah.
telling
Yeah.
when you've got votes like that. But yeah.
Speaking of those votes, you've been doing a lot of work in Washington D.C. Talk little bit about that, and talk a little bit more about these two bills that are coming up soon that we really can use some positive energy and telling people that this needs to get voted on and for, and
Yeah.
hold those who vote against it accountable to their vote.
Yes, that would be wonderful if all of y'all could contact your legislators. There is a vote coming up. There's a bill going to the floor on the 12th. 10, 11, 12, 3 more days. It's Senate Bill 1829. and it's the Stop CSAM Act. And again, that's Stop Child Sexual Abuse Material. And that is going to just strengthen the laws. There's already a great tip line that NCMEC has, a National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, have what they call a cyber tip line. So it's going to just really strengthen that, and it's going to mandate that providers, online providers, if they see and discover any CSAM, they'll have 60 days to report it. But it's going to mandate that any kind of CSAM is reported, period, whether it is verified or not. And it let me see, there's some other really great points on here. Um, Right, whether they believe a violation has occurred or not, they still have an obligation to report. So, please check it out for yourselves. I don't want you guys to support the bills just because I'm telling you to. Just with everything that you, even supporting organizations,
Oh,
there's
absolutely.
a lot of organizations out there that have $1 million marketing budgets that are not doing what they say they're doing. So please be careful, even with your money that you send to support. The 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 thought is nice, the sentiment is nice that you're sending money to help whatever you're choosing to help, but just please make sure that they're really using the money to do what they say they're doing. um
Kym is a much nicer person than I am, and I will not mention any of these names, but a lot of these places, they play the music, the little piano music in the background. They know that, and they're wrong, but they think that Americans are lazy. They'll throw a couple of dollars at it, and they accumulate money that way. And you know what? I'll send you a nice T-shirt, and that's what happens. But going into the trenches, trust but verify everything and anything
yes,
that you do.
please.
Um,
Yeah.
it's just important for us all to do.
Yeah.
Um, and listen, just to kind of drive this point home, right? I mean, I am an educator. My master's degree is in education. I taught special ed. I now and as a person who was running director of hockey for a junior hockey organization, as a person who now currently also runs. I was executive director of a place for addiction, and now I run a house for those who have Prader-Willi syndrome, PWS. Look it up. I am a mandatory reporter. Within
Mhm.
20 to 48 hours, you have to report. So why these corporations think they don't have to report what they think is a problem? Well, how do you know you could be hurting somebody's life? I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an attorney, but if it doesn't look right, I have to. I am mandated to say something. Kym is
Yep.
mandated to say something.
Yep.
Why not these companies? Kym, tell me, why not these companies?
It's they hide behind, and I'm gonna misquote this because I just remember the number 230. There's
Mhm.
some kind of a legislation, and my friends that are listening to this will be laughing at me, but I just totally drew a blank. But there's a protection for online platforms, kind of like a First Amendment thing, that the
Mhm.
online platforms are not accountable for their content. So they're hiding behind that, and we're hoping that someday that will be repealed. But um, they're not held accountable. So it's super frustrating that you've got safeties that are on everything else, and just like you said, we're mandatory reporters, and I talk about trusting your gut. If
Mhm.
you're wrong, then okay, maybe you've frustrated somebody, but if they're not guilty, they're going to appreciate that you actually cared enough to say something.
That's right.
If they're guilty, they're going to be ticked off at you because you just called them out. But you may have saved a life, so
Yep.
what are you risking? So you either, if you're going to make somebody mad or you're going to save somebody's life. It's just like, trust your gut. And if you're wrong, okay. But if you're
Gather
right,
around, kids. Here's a little bit of wisdom from old man Darren. You ready? To trust is good, to not trust is better. So trust but verify. You feel that in your gut. There's a
yeah,
reason that it's
trust
there.
your gut. Yep, yep.
Tell me a little bit more about, we talked a little offline beforehand. Um, the App Store Accountability Act.
Yes,
I
thank you
think
for
that's
asking
Bill
about that.
1586.
Yes,
Um,
it's yeah.
Talk about that because this is lovely. I love this idea.
Yeah, I do too. I'm super excited about this bill. So it's Senate Bill 1586 and it's House Bill HR 3149. And that one right now, that is at the federal level, but there have been two states that have already passed this same bill at the state level, Utah and Texas both. And there are 12 other states that have this legislation, Florida being one of them, that are coming up the ranks as well. But this is completely bipartisan. It's children aren't, aren't partisan. So it's both sides want this. And I think it's a phenomenal bill because it's going to require parental consent for any kid under 18 to download an app. So when you think about your cell phone, where are you getting your apps from? You're getting your apps from the Google Store
Hmm.
or the Apple Store on your phone. That's
Yep.
it.
Yep.
You're going to the store and downloading an app. So a lot of these apps are rated, right? So safe for 4 plus, safe for 12 plus, safe for whatever. And the ratings are wrong.
Hmm.
There's no accountability for the ratings. And some of these safe for 4 apps still have pornography and bullying and just really inappropriate things that our kids are being exposed to. So it's gonna mandate that anyone that a parent has to sign off on any app that's downloaded. It's any app. It can be a
Hmm.
Bible app. It doesn't matter. Like
Yep.
the parent gets to say what their child can put on their phone. So there is
And
going to
people,
be,
before you complain and think this is an overreach, listen.
yeah.
You can't buy Robitussin right now until you're over 18. You can't buy cigarettes unless you're 21.
Yes,
You can't
preach.
buy beer
Yes,
unless you're 21.
exactly.
What is this? All we're saying is whoever the care provider is for this person says that it's okay. It
Yeah,
takes an extra minute and a half. I mean, literally. Um, I don't see what the problem is
yeah.
myself. And I am a
I
First
don't either.
Amendment Uber advocate. So
Hmm.
trust me, this is just wonderful common sense.
Yeah, and
I
it
don't.
has nothing to do with content. Like it's just like exactly what you said as part of our argument. Are you going to let an 8-year-old buy cigarettes?
Mm,
We've mandated no. A parent, if a parent wants to have you have a cigarette in your house, whatever, that's up to the parent, right?
yep.
Same with alcohol. Are you going to let an 8-year-old drive your car, give him a license? Like
Nope.
there's safeties put in place intentionally to protect your children and to protect others. So it's nonsensical that we even have to create bills to do this, but we do. So and
Explain a
then
little bit how. I'm sorry,
no,
just
no.
because there's so much, and
Yeah.
and
It's all
and my- and you might have learned by now, Kim. What's my favorite word? The next one. So
good.
I like to talk a lot. Um, and there's limited time, right? There's limited time in everything that we do. So, and I put that out there to tee up the fact that why is it so important that people let their elected officials know how important this is? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's important, especially when they've made it through all the committees and it's actually going to the floor to be voted on. It's critical, at least for this first one, the Stop CSAM Act, like we said, that's coming up for a vote on the 12th. So please contact your legislators and check out the bill and then contact your legislators. And then the other like the App Store Accountability Act and there's the Trafficking Survivors Relief Act and there's a No Fakes Act.
Mhm.
There's AI like these there's there are actually apps out there that are nudification apps.
Yep.
And there's deep fake apps where there's just and you guys have seen them. They're videos of little kids with adult voices and it's just AI like you said. AI is not bad in and of itself, but it's being utilized by really bad folks. So
Exactly.
it's really, 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 really critical that these bills pass so that there are safe seat belts, so to speak,
Yep.
on the internet and in these apps so that your children are safer.
Yep.
So it's not, and there's nothing that's going to be foolproof. The parents, you need to parent.
Yep.
And I'm just going to pause for effect on
I
that.
love that. I
But
love that.
please, parents, you need to parent. So you need to have the conversations with your children. You need to talk to them about what is appropriate, not appropriate. You need to warn them that people are going to be saying things to try to just to
Mhm.
persuade them away from all that you've been teaching them. Uh, and and then it's not just the parents, then we need the platforms and the apps to create these apps with safety in mind.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's really needs to be a happy marriage between what the parent can do, because parents are begging legislators to please pass these because they're doing everything. There's so many parents out there that are doing everything they know to do to protect their kids, to put parental guidelines on these phones, to buy the bark phone, to buy, limit their on-screen time. Their parents are
Mm.
doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is fantastic, and thank you, parents. But I just spoke I'll just say I spoke with a youth group. I've spoken with several youth groups. I spoke with one particular youth group that a couple of the kids shared with me that my mom or dad doesn't care because they let me have TikTok. They let me have Instagram. They let me have Facebook. They let me have whatever with no conversation. Now, not saying that the parent is bad if they let them have those things, but have a conversation. Like, are you monitoring? Are you having conversations with your kiddos so that you're teaching them how to choose? You're teaching them how to uh, what to do. It's stranger danger online. We taught our kids, I was taught, don't talk to strangers, but that was in a park or
Yep.
on the street when I'm walking to the bus. Now you have to tell your kids, don't accept a friend request from someone that you're playing online with. If you've not met them in real life,
Hmm.
don't do it. Don't turn off your location on your photos, on your cell phones. They're geotagged. You upload a photo, that perpetrator knows exactly where it just came from. So there's lots of things. Like I said, I could talk to you forever about all of this.
No, it's
But there's so
this is
many
all
things
important. This is
parents
all
can do.
important stuff. And
Yeah,
that's the key. You get, I'm sorry to tangent this
no,
thing, but
please.
parents, caregivers, you can't stick your head in the sand. And nobody's saying you're a bad parent because a couple of balls, unfortunately, going to get past the goalie. It's just going to
Yeah,
happen.
absolutely.
And we,
It is. They're going to go to their friend's house.
yep.
They're at school. They're online. They are going to be exposed to it regardless of what you do.
So you want to put a situation together where they know what to do when it happens.
Yes.
And that's why pretending it doesn't exist, I'm not giving them a phone until they're 74. That doesn't really work either. You think it does. And then I have to tell you, without getting emotional, I've had to deal with some really bad situations in the stuff that I do because all of a sudden they turn 18 and they don't know how to deal with this stuff and
Mhm.
it all comes crashing down
Yeah.
and there's no barriers in place because they never built up the tolerance. They never built up this reaction of learning how to say no, learning about the gift of discernment.
Mm.
Teach your child how to discern and
Yeah.
yourself to discernment. What is this TikTok? Does my child need it? Probably not. But by the time they're a certain age, they're gonna find it. So now when that happens, what do I do? Hey,
Hmm.
here's what I need you to do. I need for you to turn this off. I need you to turn this off. This is okay. This is fine. Or who do you want to follow? Oh, you want to follow the Mets? Just whatever. Just talking. You have a movie coming up, and you want to follow the people from the movie. Lovely. But you know what? Mom and dad We're not going to inspect your phone because, we don't trust you as much as we don't trust the people who are trying to get to you.
Right.
You know, what does a good person do in the house every day? Make sure the door's locked. Make sure nobody try to jimmy the window to come in.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're going to do. And
Exactly.
now the movie's not there anymore. We're going to take that off and maybe give you some access to something else, whatever the case may be. So now they have a working knowledge. And you as parents need to know. I bet you a lot of parents, when you brought up the fact about geocoding photos, I bet you a large portion of parents didn't even know that exists.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And
Yeah, there's a lot of things I didn't know until I got into this world. And I'm still learning. Just like I said, I learned I didn't even know about AI companion.
mm,
So there's just a lot of things, and like you said, training your children, teaching them, just like you teach them how to wash the dishes or how to do
mhm,
their laundry. Do you want your 18-year-old, 25-year-old, 35-year-old to finally launch out of the house and not know how to do any of those things? Your kids, the brain doesn't even develop, the reasoning part of your brain doesn't
mhm.
develop until they're 25 or 26. So scares the snot out of me that 18-year-olds go off to war, right? But
Oh,
what we can do as parents is we can train them. So you're not being a helicopter mom or
nope.
dad if you're wanting to know who their friends are and wanting to know what the apps are and wanting to see they're your responsibility until they're 18. So
Here,
train them to think, train them to be safe, train them so that when they do turn 18, like you said, Darren, they can make those decisions. And they're going to be making those decisions way before 18.
oh, a
They're
hundred
they're
thousand
they're making
percent.
them in grade school. Like the grade when my friend is the founder of Paving the Way Foundation, Jan Edwards, phenomenal woman in my same work, and she trains kids. She goes into schools and teaches the kiddos. And she's told me stories where it's almost consistently that every class, and I've done this with my youth groups too, every class that she teaches, have you received a picture of a body part or a text soliciting something from you and that you didn't ask for? Has there ever been any of that? Or received a DM from someone that you didn't know?
Mhm.
Let's see the hands, raise the hands. Every single hand goes up from second grade older.
Oh,
It's,
absolutely.
it's like, it's, parents don't realize, the public doesn't realize how urgent this is. And it's not the sky is falling.
No,
It's absolutely right now, right here. And you can look the other way. You can bury your head and just say, "Oh, they'll be fine on their own. They're just kids being kids." Until your child goes missing, until you're burying your child. I cannot even tell you how many parents were with us in DC for the screening and the FTC listening session that I did. Rows and rows and rows and rows of parents who've lost their children to this. Rows and rows.
horrible.
Like I can't even think about it for very long without getting emotional because we don't realize how
That's why
profound
we
this
need
is.
somebody like you leading this charge. Because it should hurt. It should be painful. It's horrible that it has to happen.
Yeah.
But you
And
have to
I
speak
just I
about it
can't
now,
even
that level.
that humanity is selling humans. That
Hmm.
humanity is that humans are doing this to humans, especially children. And I death penalty. Sorry, Florida, I'm all about it. It's like,
Listen,
and I'm a Christian, I'm a pastor, but it's like, you know what?
and here's another piece of reality from me, in my opinion, anyway. And I have not been proven wrong on this, and I don't think I ever will be. But your children, that same child who you are bragging about doing great on the AP test, graduating high school with a 4.6 and the greatest thing in sliced bread, and you think that you're going to keep them away from the phone? and the computer and this and that. No, you have to meet children where they are. They're
Yeah.
young adults, meaning you
Mhm.
don't talk over their age or under their age. You need to talk there. Here's an idea. You want to bond with your child in the world of technology and learn a lot without giving them a third degree? You say, hey, how do I put Zoom on my phone? They will love to teach you.
Yeah.
Subjugate yourself to your child for half a second. It's
Yeah.
okay.
And
It's
play
okay
their
to show
games
you.
with them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's okay to show vulnerability
Hmm.
all the time. You will build with them, and explain to them why. That great, Cynic has a wonderful book. It starts at why. Explain to them why, and don't do the old "because I said so, I'm your parent." Nobody cares, and they're laughing at you as soon as you leave. You might not
Mm.
think so, but they are, and you just have to sit there and understand that this is a situation that needs back and forth. It needs conversation. It doesn't need a one-sided, dissertation. And if you do that, we have a shot. But yes, it is scary how evil the world is. I mean, I shared a story on the last time we podcasted together. I remember I was bouncing in a club, and one thing I would do about 1 o'clock in the morning is I'd look around the parking lot, and there was a girl, a young lady in there, maybe 14, and two guys in their 40s,
Mm.
and it was not a good thing. And accidentally, on purpose, the 40-year-olds might have, I don't know, slept because it can get slippery out, in Brooklyn in the winter. They might have slipped and fell down, and a couple times. Um, but 3 or 4 weeks later, that same child was in
Mm.
another car with other people. And I said to her, I said, what are you doing? If you notice, not like you stink or because like you said, I love it. It's not child prostitution. It's child rape. And I said, why don't you go home? What's going on? She goes, they don't care. They
Mm.
don't care. And that's an unfortunate and ugly situation.
Yeah.
And there are situations, by the way, where you do care, but they're getting out there anyway because these slime buckets will find a way to manipulate your child. Talk a little bit before we end, if you may, about the wonderful trip you have going on soon to Honduras.
Oh, yes, thank you. So I have been going to Honduras for the last few years, and I work with a wonderful organization there called Tree of Life Ministries, who has been doing this over 30 years. They have they have a campus there, but they have educated tens of thousands of kids in Honduras. And they've started over 100 churches, and when I go there, it's wonderful because we usually do a conference where we can chat with the kids, we can chat with the moms and the dads, and we can what they do is they educate the kids and they teach them how to start businesses.
I
We
love
teach
that.
them about their value. Um, and we just kind of set them up to be
Mhm.
successful in their own land. So they're not paying. I had one young lady that their family paid $14,000 for the coyote to bring their daughter here. And we had DHS and Border Patrol watching and kind of tracked her movements. And fortunately, she did not come across the border. She was sent back home because she didn't have the additional 4 or 5 thousand for the Mexican coyotes to get the rest of the way over. And it's a miracle that she survived, that she did actually get back home. So that's wonderful. But that's what happens. So these families are paying for their kids to come to the United States to work and send money back. They don't realize what work's going to look like until they get over here. And so we're really Tree of Life does an amazing work over there, and I
That's
just get to
wonderful.
go over for a week or so. I'm taking a team. In fact, we have 3 spots left. If I can do a plug, we have 3 spots left on this team. So if anybody is interested in going to Honduras with us, It's $2,100. We're leaving in July. I won't put the date out there,
Right.
but would love
People, it will
it.
be a life enriching
Yes, it'd be
opportunity for
phenomenal.
you. What did I do this summer? I went to Honduras
Yeah.
and helped save people.
So it's really it's an amazing opportunity. I think that and anybody that gets an opportunity to go to a third world and see what the difference is in how they live versus how we live, it's very eye-opening, and it will change your life forever. So definitely thank you for bringing that up.
So, Kym, before I let you go, and again, I'll have you back. We'll talk more about this, and we'll find out how those two bills did, and
Perfect.
everything else. Um, how can somebody get in touch with your organization when they hear about this? Because I'm going to try to get this out tomorrow morning.
Oh,
You know,
fantastic. Thank
yep.
you.
So,
Okay, well, you can email us at info, is probably the easiest email, at info at ANEW, that's ANEW,
one
international,
word, kids.
international.org. So it's info at anewinternational.org. You can email me there. You can reach us through our website. So that's www.anewinternational.org. We are on Facebook, A New Life International. We're on LinkedIn. We're also on Instagram. It's at a new 777, I believe is that one. So you can do all that. And then we have a toll-free number that is, I'm the only one that hears those, so it is confidential. But you can also get a hold of me through that, and that's 84 Hope Anew. That's 84 8. Well, the full number is 844-673-2639. So that's 84 Hope Anew. Um, and then I'll give you do you want the mailing address?
Why
So,
not?
okay, all the things. So mailing address is 870 North Miramar Avenue, number 823. And
Hmm.
that's in Indialantic, Indialantic, Florida, 32903.
Love
So
that.
you can follow us, get a hold of us. We'd love your prayers too for resources. I'll kind of end with this, and any other if you have any other closing
Oh,
questions, but um, education and awareness is phenomenal. Like for parents with your kids, please reduce vulnerability by having those conversations with your kids. Value them. You can help for free by just loving them. Love and value your kids. They're going to be less susceptible if they believe in themselves. And your voice matters to your children. And not just your voice, but your actions. So just love on your kids and value them. Let them feel it, let them know it. Uh, what was I going to say?
well,
That
if I
must have been the
just,
most important part.
no,
Um,
it'll come. And I think what you're saying, if I may expand on that a little
yeah,
bit, is this is, listen, children are not a commodity, they're a blessing. And I believe a blessing from God. And
absolutely.
they will mess up like we mess up. Like I tell people all the time, I said, listen, I said, if your child could see you at 11 o'clock in the morning at the office or wherever you are, the way you're acting, what you're saying, or what you're thinking about, right? Would you be proud? Probably not. Why? Because we're humans. Give them the same courtesy, give them the same reciprocity, and allow them to fail forward. Let
Oh, I
them
love that.
know. Yeah, it was just because I tell you, and again, I learned that from somebody else. I mean, I love what we talked about tonight about, I don't love the subject matter, but I love the action,
Yeah,
that we talk about. And you do that with your children and let them know you're not perfect, but you're there together. You will always do your best for
absolutely.
them.
And that's huge. You touched on something that's really huge. Be a safe place for your child.
Mm.
So if they make a mistake, when they make a mistake, because we
Yep.
all, even as adults, are making mistakes. But if they did upload something, if they did befriend someone, if they did go into a chat room, whatever they did, let them know that you are safe for them to talk to so that
Yep.
they have an out. They have a way to work through. They're not going to be able to come up with solutions on their own right now. You have to be a safe place. You have to be able to hear and listen to your kids.
You
And
know,
I did
oh, go ahead.
oh, I remembered what I was going to say. Sorry.
Yes. No, please
Um,
do.
so I was just going to say we can do all the awareness and education on this, on human trafficking, and we can identify folks, we can get people out, and then what?
Yep.
That's my question. It's we're doing all this work to get folks out, and there are hundreds of thousands of victims right now waiting to be found. So what happens when we find them?
Hmm.
There
I
are
love.
no beds for these folks. There's no homes. There's no, not that there's none, but there's limited. In
Yep.
Brevard County, the few beds that I know of that are legitimate, and that's key, legitimate places for these folks to go are full.
Yep.
So for everyone that says there's no human trafficking in Brevard County, well, all our beds are full.
That's
So,
right.
and so we need folks that, do you have property? Do you have homes? Do you have apartment complexes? Do you have cars for these folks that need
Oh, you just
cars?
you
Like,
just gave me goosebumps and forget what I was going to say before because this is so much
we
more
need
important. You know,
resources.
listen, your alma mater, you want listen, I get it, and it's wonderful that you want to give your alma mater your third home, you know,
Mm,
because you're an alumni. How about you give it to an organization that's going to save
yes,
these people? How about you do that? You know, um, just give that a thought, like pray on it, and I say that with no, either way you go with this, it's wonderful. It's yours to do with, and that's one of the wonderful things about this country. But boy, why not? Like,
yeah,
why not?
just consider,
Like,
consider
why
helping.
not? Well,
You have
here's
the
another
means.
thing. Yeah, here's another thing I was thinking of, just out of the box. Since we're talking, I'm a big believer in therapy, in helping fighting mental illness.
Mhm.
Um, how about the person who goes to school to become a therapist, a mental therapist, or a psychiatrist, and they have a big student loan, right? But how about the first 2 years they live with a prevailing wage and everything else? They have to give 2 years of service to Melbourne, or they have to give 2 years of mental health to help these people who need that kind of help,
Be
and to help
amazing.
eradicate their student loan and be able to give back. That would be wonderful. Things like that. There are solutions. If we
Absolutely.
just good people just get together and they think about it.
Yeah.
And if you see something, you're not a snitch. That whole snitch thing is nonsense. See something, say something.
Please, and you can do it anonymously.
Yep.
So just say something. And if you have the means to help, vet the organization and please help. Please do
No,
what you can to help.
absolutely. Kim, thank you so much.
Thank you so
And
much, Darren.
I am honored that you were on the program today, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Likewise, the honor's mine. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Bye now.